Hello everyone, welcome back. William here. We are working on part 8 of the Case 310G Dozer project. I believe, unless I'm mistaken, I think we are up to putting the radiator in, which is a really big step. We have our water pump installed, thermostat installed, hydraulic pump rebuilt. New lines where applicable. You've been there, you know that. I have this radiator. I got it from Radiator Supply House. They were very good to work with. I'm not sure if this is the actual part number or not, but if you Google Case 310G radiator, this is what comes up. I worked very closely with a lady out there. Took some measurements off of mine. I've talked about this in earlier videos, but an old timer told me that a gas motor, the lower port on the radiator will be 3/4 of an inch off. He didn't specify left or right. So, fingers crossed, we can get this installed. They did send us some extra stuff. Get this opened here. We have, please take one, a little army man, things like that, catalog, some coupons, things like that. Nothing I'm going to use. I've actually had this radiator the better part of a year. Nothing to write home about. Talking about several of their things. Boy, they like to give you the stuff, don't they? What else do we have? We have another army man. I've got some nephews that'll enjoy those. And this is kind of handy. A couple of notepads. You always need those in the shop. So, good job, guys. A little added bonus. Let's get our radiator out. Like Christmas, except I'm shooting this on New Year's. Very nice, like styrofoam injected plastic Walmart bag stuff for shipping the radiator safely. Here you can see the radiator very nicely. Comes with these plastic caps protecting all of our inside of the radiator. No damage to any of the fins as expected. It appears we have the mounting holes for the ISO mounts on the old radiator. This is a little concerning, but I'm not too terribly worried. This is, I believe, an oil cooler passage for a unit with a torque converter. We'll just leave those capped because my unit doesn't have it, so no point in messing with it. Let's flip it over. Preliminary inspection looks to be excellent. Don't see any issues. Comes with a petcock right away, that's nice. Let's see if it fits. Fingers crossed. Fortunately, I'm going to be able to break my solder off and bolt this onto this shroud here. I don't think I will have to do any soldering or anything like that, is my hope, but we will see. So I'm going to get the blowtorch set up, and I'm going to melt off the solder that's holding this down. Half of it's loose, half of it's not, and then I will remove my ISO mounts as well. And here are the lower ISO mounts. All right, we have our radiator shroud removed. Now I need to go after our ISO mounts right here. Seems to be fairly straightforward operation, but we will see. Sometimes these things fight you all the way. Okay, we have ran into our first problem. The old retainers are not retained any longer. I have opted to cut the bolt heads off, and then I can try to get the retainers out. Once I have them out on the table, I can heat them up red hot, and then that bolt should come right out. I'm not sure if this little raised portion is a lock washer or not, so I'm going to stay away from that, and then I'll probably polish my way through the rest of the bolt head down to that in case it's some kind of a special spacer for the ISO mount. Okay, I was able to cut through our bolt head with no damage to what I hope is a lock washer, and I threw my flap disc on. Now I'm going to polish my way through in case that's some kind of a shouldered spacer. A little bit more polishing. Here we have our large fender washer. No issues. I'm hoping I can use a punch and maybe knock this out through the back side. Well, a couple good whacks with the hammer actually broke it free. Pretty incredible. Okay, I'm here in the vise, hoping to knock this out of the ISO mount without having to use any heat. Otherwise, I'm going to have to find a new ISO mount. Oh yeah, it's coming. There we go. As you can see, plenty of crusty. Okay, here you can see some of the problems we were having. This thing likes to spin. The solder has come loose. So what I think I'm going to do is just use a nylon lock nut and see how that works for me. And then also, I'm going to be able to reuse my ISO mount, even though it is damaged, because I have this enormous fender washer that is going to help locate everything. So even though that does spin in there, the rubber is still very supple, and I think we're going to have no issues because the steel bolts completely rigid to the radiator shroud, and then the large fender washer keeps everything located. So I'm going to get away with using these this time, and they will be easy to change in the future if I think they're becoming a problem. All right, I'm going to repeat the steps on the other side for this ISO mount, and we will cut it off with our Metabo slicer, and we won't have to worry because we know that that is in fact a lock washer. All right, I've already got our torch running, and I've got to sweat all of the large barnacles of solder off of this. I've got some really large ones right there. Need to get those sweated off so everything can sit down evenly. And then this being mild steel right here, even on the new radiator, I'm kind of thinking of tentatively just tack welding this. Obviously back in 65 or 66 when this was made, They didn't have MIG welders, but I'm very confident I can get that just welded instead of soldered and save myself a lot of time and a trip to the radiator shop. Okay, we have our shroud. I have a visitor here. I believe that cat is Sage. It's Charlie's kids. We have our shroud all clean. You just kind of heat it up with a blowtorch and then rub it down with a wire brush. It gets everything nice and clean and ready. There's no irregular bumps or anything that's going to start rubbing a hole into our radiator. So I believe we are ready to set this on the new radiator, give it a good look over and things, and then unfortunately I don't know that I can put it on until I mount the radiator and make sure all my fan and everything is correct. So hurry up and wait for this. Okay, I have our fan shroud or cowling bolted up, just mocked up right now. This one's not out. I just kind of catty cornered them, and I'm hoping that I can get this kind of wedged in there. I may have to put the ISO mounts underneath to get the proper height spacing, things of that nature, but we're going to try it right now. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the radiator is mocked up. All the holes seem to line up properly. The top inlet is in the proper location. These are bent and damaged and things, so pay no mind to those being over the radiator cap. Our shroud seems to be in the perfect location. Everything seems to be working out. I'm going to fold this lip down right back here to get me just a little bit more height raised up, and then I might trim back about 1/4 of an inch into this just to give me a little bit more room for a hose clamp or things like that. I'll take you around to the other side. Our lower mounting bolt holes are lined up. The rubber strap has just pulled this back just a little bit too far. And then it'll be a little hard to see, but right there, envision this breather being out of the way, but our lower radiator port is perfectly lined up. So this part number right here, part number 845127 from Radiator Supply House, is a good number for a replacement radiator for a diesel 310G case dozer. I'm going to take this over to the main shop where we have our welding rigs and get this welded out and do the folding and the cutting like we talked about. Okay, we are back at the main shop. Pardon all the noise. My father is working on a project. I just quickly took my Sharpie marker and just did some score marks. You can see here several of them just for me to compare different locations, things of that nature, because we know that it works in this location that it is right now. What I'm going to do is unbolt it now, and I'm going to fold this lip ever so slightly. And then I think there will be enough deflection in here that I will be able to squeeze my hose on and my hose clamp as well. Okay, a quick look at our fit up. We can follow our Sharpie marks. Obviously we're not lined up just right now, but folding that little lip down was everything we needed. We're no longer, let me just pull this down slightly, we're no longer gouging the bottom of this port here. We were gouging the solder, and I think with this lip poking up, we would have eventually rubbed a hole in it. Maybe not, but I don't like taking those chances when I'm in this deep. The next thing to do is to line up all of our marks and then mark where we want to put our welds, and then clean it with a flap disc. You'll see that in just a second. That way we get a good weld on this surface. Now we're going to clean the shroud. I'm gonna put my gloves on because it's sheet metal. Ready to weld this baby out. Okay, as it stands right now, we have excellent fit up. I would say we are within a 16th, maybe a 32nd of our marks all the way around. This I knew was going to deflect slightly when I curved this way, but that was actually something that I wanted because it gave me just a little bit of extra room right here to get our hose on and get our hose clamp on. Real quickly, I wanted to document the reason I was never scared of welding to that outer shell of the radiator is because the core is not even touching it on both sides. So I was not afraid to do that at all. I'm going to blend this just slightly so it's not just naked weld. And then we're gonna go see if we can put some liquid in this in the next hour or two. We are back in the main shop. I have the radiator all welded. You saw that earlier. I went to O'Reilly Auto Parts because it is New Year's Day, and I had to get hose clamps and all the accoutrement that I needed. Got these bolts at the shop, various sizes in case I need them, because the other ones are well flogged and I don't care about original hardware. For our lower radiator hose, it is very tired. I'm 90% sure it's original. It's very spongy and coming apart, just waiting to let you down. And then instead of bulldozing, you're dropping a belly pan and cussing. So I had to buy this right here. This is 1 3/4 inches. Here is the Master Pro part number. I'm going to try and cut it out of this little jaunt right here because it's always handy to have 90-degree elbows when you're working on this old stuff. Might save my bacon. I'll throw it up in the parts loft. And then for the top radiator hose, you can see someone at some point, this is supposed to be just straight in line, headed that way. And someone had my idea as well. They kind of chopped around on it, kind of squished it on there halfway straight, and then it worked. So I'm going to do the same thing. I have this enormous Gates hose. Here is the number right here, 22780. And there's my 90-degree, and I kind of have two chances for a 90-degree, even though this is quite a large sweep right here. So that's what we're going to start working on. I have to make my lower radiator hose right now before I start sliding it in because there's not enough room to get it on because the gap is only about 1/2 inch. The lower radiator hose installed. I have several more chances, so I made it as long as the other one, and just in hopes that it'll be the right length. Like I said, I can make more if I need to. Hose clamp preemptively installed. The lower one is tight so I don't lose it. And then just in case everything is off a little bit or whatever, I decided to use DAP silicone right here as a basically a rubber grommet to stop any vibration, and just a nice even bead all the way along the bottom there and out this side. And I did pull this up slightly so it's 100% glued under there. We'll just let that harden and then we will not have any issue. But if I do have a problem, I can just simply grind these welds off right here, cut that with a razor blade, and I should be in business to move all of this again if I need to. Shouldn't have to. We're going to attempt to install the radiator right now. YouTube. The radiator has new bolts in, side to side, original ISO mount down there. Didn't have to worry about these ISO mounts because the hole is threaded, as you can see there. These, like I said, they just move out of the way. Some redneck engineering. Someone was trying to hold them up with a rope. Not quite what I'm planning to do, but it got them by. So I need to put my nylon lock nuts on the bottom, and I would recommend that this piece of hose be about 1/4 of an inch shorter, and I'm going to take an original measurement from the old hose that I have now, so you will know what size to make your hose. I just measured this hose, and it is coming up to 2 7/8 to 2 3/4, so I think you could really get by with 2.5 inches of 1 3/4 inside diameter rubber hose. Okay, with our radiator installed, temporarily of course, with this rubber strap so we don't have any catastrophic nosedives, I'm going to now cut and fit my 90-degree radiator hose because I can still lean my radiator to put it on, which will assist me. I'm going to put a nut a couple of threads on and a nut a couple of threads on so that this girl cannot get away from us. We're getting way too close in the project to poke a hole in our new radiator. Okay, we have another visitor here. This is Pubsy. She's a good dog, a stray someone dumped out, and my brother Charles adopted her. That aside, I just did the preliminary fit with our old hose. It seems to be a little bit on the long side, but I'm going to use it as my starting point, and handily enough, this sticker is exactly where I need to cut the new hose. So I'm going to follow that around, and then I'll start taking off 1/4 inch at a time to get it just perfect. Okay, by my calculation, I need to take off 1/2 of an inch this way and 1/2 of an inch this way. And that should make it just about right. I'm about 3/4 of an inch too tall, and then I'm about, don't know if you can see that on camera, I'm probably 1/2 of an inch too long, maybe a little more, from shoving the radiator back far enough to set squarely. So we'll get that cut, we'll check back in. Okay, this is going to be attempt number 2. YouTube, we have success. I was able to get that with that Gates part number belt. Everything is tight, and I'm now going to tighten up my lower radiator bolts and put on my lower hose clamp, and then we will be ready to add liquid as far as I can tell. Okay, I am under the belly of the beast. Right here is my last hose clamp to do. I think I'm going to do it at an angle from below because you can always drop the belly pan. I don't know with this piece right here, right where this finger is sticking over, is where the blow-by line had chattered into the frame and then chattered down and ruined this hydraulic line. So I think having this down at an angle would be better because I think the blow-by line is going to hinder my access to that hose clamp. Okay, I'm going to tighten our 2 bolts on either side of the radiator, and then we are going to fill this baby with coolant. And fingers crossed, we didn't pick up any leaks. Okay, we're going to start filling our antifreeze. We have O'Reilly Auto Parts Finest, universal 50/50 pre-diluted, because no one has time to buy straight antifreeze anymore and dilute it. That's 1 gallon. On to number 2. That's gallon number 2. There is some cavitation where it is flowing down the top radiator hose right now. So we'll have to let that bubble for a little while. But that's not too bad. I'll be able to return some of this. I bought 5 gallons thinking it would take more. Here's a look down inside. I think it's done bubbling for a while. So we'll top this off with the start of our 3rd gallon, and then we will check it tomorrow and see. I will just set the cap on here to keep the dust out, and then if it needs to pull anything or whatever, it doesn't have like a vacuum that it's trying to pull against. So pretty exciting to put fluids back in something. Big shout out to Radiator Supply House. This was an excellent fit up for this Case 310G Dozer. Part numbers, phone number there. If anyone is interested in buying one. I believe I told them I would reuse my original shroud because I was worried that theirs wasn't quite right. So I knew I could make this one work once I got it here. Here you can see slow cavitation where this is trickling past the thermostat right there. So that's a good thing. Letting this set for a while will hopefully make it to where there's no air bubbles in the system, and it'll fill our water pump cavity, and then it won't be running dry. Hindsight being 2020, I probably should have filled this and then put everything on, and then my water pump would have been certain that it wasn't running dry. Okay, the final thing I am going to tackle today, it's been a pretty long 8-hour day out here, is I'm going to wrap this with thread tape just to tighten up my threads just that little bit more. And then this rubber hose is hard as a rock, so I got some 3/4 inch replacement heater hose from O'Reilly Auto Parts, and so all I have to do, shove this way and walk it down inside this clamp that I loosened up, just like so. And then it will be still, unfortunately, putting its blow-by right into the belly pan, but I don't plan to put that many hours on it that will be an issue. Okay, that was simple enough. I could very easily reuse these, but I'm just a fiend for modern, efficient hardware. So I'm gonna put new hose clamps on. I'm going to back this out now and put thread tape on my 1/2 inch NPT. That'll tighten that up just a little bit because these threads are slightly stressed, but not enough to worry about, especially once I put the thread tape on there. Okay, we're gonna thread this in very gently. Make sure we start straight. Oh yeah, that's taking up all that slack. That's perfect. Hose clamp goes on now. I think I better, before I get too carried away, I think I better take a pipe wrench and put one more turn on that. Little 4-inch Nypex are gonna come through. You can always trust a German tool. Worth every penny. Those are in my EDC, everyday carry. I think I'm gonna grab some oil real quick, oil that. That'll just help me get that on. PB Blaster ran out of juice, so popped a hole in the top, just used my finger. A little grody, but it's better than throwing it away. Turn that just slightly so it's a little more even. Can't stand a hose clamp that's cockeyed. Pretty good on that one. Pardon the noise, Charlie had a friend come over to visit. Slightly more gap in there than there used to be, I believe, but more than adequate for a blow-by line. Very nice, very nice. Now we'll step down here. We have to tighten up this bolt, and then we are in business. We have the bolt tight. We have the radiator filled. We got a lot done. A lot of meticulous stuff. I'd like to thank everyone for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. We are over 1,000 subscribers now, so every like, comment, and share really helps out the channel and will help us to grow. One day closer to getting the old girl running. Thanks for watching.